that I'm referring to, out of 132 reviews over the years, 125 of them are 5-star reviews. I am not the only person singing these people's praises. Praises, not phrases. I have, as you can tell, 0 teeth. I don't enunciate properly. I have Tourette syndrome, and I have PTSD, and I have back issues. The people who work there treat me very well. They're also very direct with me. I might be one of the few people who ever had a problem at his place and still gave them a 5-star review. You know why I gotta get on and give them a 5-star review? I'm gonna explain it to you. Last night, you might have noticed there was a gentleman pulled up, and when he pulled up, I made sure I started recording. The reason for that is because when I first got here, just like with many places I go to now, people give me free weed. I haven't been okay with smoking it since I was in Hood River. But everywhere I go here in Oregon, I hear about both men and women dying of fentanyl overdoses. There's also the fact that I don't want methamphetamines in my system. The guy that I recorded last night, or started the recording because of, he had given me meth about, I don't know, a little over 10 months ago. It would have been my first few days here. And I've recorded with the man several times since. He has apologized for giving me drugs. As some of you may know, drugs are very tolerated here. I went to THC and explained to him the first time I went in there. I said, hey, you know what? I've already had at least 3 people just in this town alone give me drugs that are tainted. By drugs that are tainted, what I mean is there's a lot of people here who consider marijuana to be a drug, but let me explain it to you like this. Tylenol is a drug. Acetaminophen, a drug. Not all drugs are bad, okay? And not all drugs are good. When it comes to THC, I don't really need it. It doesn't help me out a whole lot. It does do almost something for my pain. It still hurts when it kicks out of action. But you know what? The folks at THC, since the very first day that I went in there and explained what was going on, have understood. They know that if I go in there and I buy $5 worth of weed at the beginning of the month, I might throw it away at the end of the month, which is often what happens. I've been here 10 months, and 3 of those months, the pot that I got for $5 at the beginning of the month ended up getting thrown away at the end of the month. They also understand that for the lower classes, especially those of us out on the streets, you can't be squeaky clean. I don't have marijuana most of the time for smoking it. I have it so that when somebody tries to offer me to smoke off of their bowl, I can say, I got my own. You never know what people got in their drugs. I was walking around their property and I was picking up cigarette butts. Was I picking up cigarette butts just to make their area cleaner? No. No, I was picking them up because I'm addicted to tobacco and I wanted a cigarette. Apparently, me picking up cigarette butts had made someone uncomfortable. Now, the people who work there and the owner could have told me, hey, don't come back. Don't come back to our property. We don't want you here. We don't Well, the situation that happened to Fred Myers. I was being victimized, and then I was harmed by the people at Fred Myers for being victimized, for trying to get help, for trying to do the right thing. I was treated so inhumanely by the staff of Fred Myers, especially Rob. The Chevron cops went around and told everybody I was wanted for killing people. Fuck no. I've never killed anybody, and I'm never gonna. Two of the staff there might have Asperger's like me. I say that because both of these individuals are highly intelligent, very, very nerdy, and in the good nerd kind of way. I only tap myself on the chest, not because I'm a good nerd, because it makes me feel better to be able to talk to a human being who understands adversity. It's nice being able to go into a dispensary and talk to somebody who is no longer a police officer. He decided that he wanted to do something useful. There's another guy there who used to be a fireman. You know, you go to THC and you can speak to people that were a part of the emergency services here in the United States. Emergency responders, first responders, whatever you want to call them. When there was an issue with me going around their store and picking up them cigarette butts, well, they pick up their own cigarette butts. When they made mention of the issue, did I throw a tantrum? No. I had to deal with racism at friggin' McDonald's. Hatred at McDonald's. People wanting to talk about killing homeless people over at McDonald's. There's people over at the Chevron wanted to be mean to me there too. I hadn't done anything evil or mean or anything like that to those people. And of course, some of those people still continue to spread the same slander the police in this town wanted to spread. I even know which officers it was, who spoke to who. But THC here in Tillamook, did they pull the stuff that Fred Myers pulled, victimizing me for something that is not my choice or not my fault? Did they follow suit with the Chevron, pretending that I must be a killer, so throw me away like I'm trash? They understand that I'm autistic at THC. We've had more than one conversation about it. When there was an issue, I'd gone into THC 3 times to check the ATM to see if my money had shown up yet. Because the other places that were local that I knew there was an ATM, I wasn't going to be able to get to. Can't go to Fred Myers. Can't go to the Chevron here. There's no ATM in McDonald's. And I was on foot at the time. Just because you have an issue doesn't mean that throwing somebody away like they're trash is a good idea. See, one thing you might have noticed is that I speak out when I'm treated badly. When they asked me not to go picking up their cigarette butts because it bothered people, that's fucking easy to follow. That is easy to comply with. It's not easy to comply with irrational people like Robert over there at the Fred Myers. It's not okay for people like that to be so incredibly insensitive and cruel. But I speak out about people who do wrong things, don't I? If the people at THC, today's herbal choice, here in Tillamook, had chosen to do the things that they did over there at Fred Meyer's, they would not have gotten a good review. They would have gotten a very low review. They wouldn't have gotten a 1 star because there's a guy there named Zach who's just a badass. A lady there named Cass who is always sweet as can be. Zach is probably my favorite. Between him and Matt, it's a toss-up. But these people aren't just there just for a job. They don't treat it like it's just a job. They don't treat their customers like their customers are mentally retarded. They treat their customers like they are valued. I go in there and get $5 a pot a month. $5 a month, and they treat me like a person. They know I have Tourette syndrome. They know that my nasal thing is part of having Tourette syndrome. They know that when I wink at them funny, it's because I'm nervous. Because I have Tourette syndrome. They listen to that. They take it to heart. They know me by name. They took the time to get to know my name. And they laugh at my stupid jokes. I go in there, they'll even exchange jokes with me. And they keep them appropriate. They don't go telling racist jokes to me. They don't go using the N-word. They don't go disrespecting other people when they have a bad day. One of the people that was there, there's a grand total of 1 out of 132 reviews. There's 1 review that's only 3 star. There's 1 review that's only 1 star. There's 5 reviews that are 4 star, 125 of them that are 5 star. I want you to take a look at the other places that I made a review about. Clearview behavioral health. Did they get a 4.9? No. Clearview behavioral health got a, what was it, a 2.3 out of 5 stars. Nobody had anything good to say about Clearview. And then Clearview was shut down because they killed a man. Not just because they killed Tibor Hate, though, but also because they were keeping people for 7 to 10 days on a 72-hour hold so that they could take more money from the American people, the American taxpayers. Is THC doing this? No. Does THC treat me like I'm less of a person than somebody who comes in there and buys $100 a week worth of pot? Obviously, I'm not spending $400 a month on marijuanas. I can't. I'm also not treated like I should only buy the high dollar stuff. Or like I should have to buy more money worth of pot every month than I need in order to go there. And yeah, I have had dispensaries that treated me that way. When it comes to having marijuana, it's a matter of being able to show that I have it a lot of times out here. Because I'm not willing to smoke somebody else's pot. But also, when you're out here on the streets, nobody's going to trust a person who's squeaky clean. Nobody. You better be on some form of, well, something out here. If you're not on pills or alcohol, if you're not smoking the blues, if you're not doing meth, heroin, people don't trust you. Because most people, when they do something like that, they don't want to get in trouble for it. They don't want to be judged for it. They don't want people passing judgment on them for sure. When I told the people at THC that I had gotten drugs on my pot more than once from people here in Tillamook. Not all of them were homeless. That one guy in the Yukon, well, he lives in his vehicle, mostly. He has a pretty big truck. He's also got an RV that he pulls behind it. Where he's got it parked, I have no idea. But the situation there, obviously that guy is not being mean or evil to me. Yes, he gave me drugs on pot that I certainly didn't want, but I accepted it as a gift. When somebody tries to gift you something like that out here, you can tell them no. Just understand that if you tell them no to literally everything, they're gonna likely think you're a square. And unless you're a pretty girly, it's not going to be accepted. People are going to be afraid of you. People are going to be afraid that you might tell on them. When I go to the people at THC and I speak with them, I see them elsewhere in town. And they all know my name, and they say hello when they see me, and they're pleasant to me. They will walk up and approach me in other places to talk to me like I'm a person, to ask me how I'm doing, to make sure I'm still safe. They also, because some of their backgrounds prior to working at the THC dispensary, they're aware of the situations I'm going through and the truth and reality of it out here on the streets. I know a lot of nurses and a lot of people who used to be police officers who quit their jobs specifically because of how the mentally ill are treated. I always go in for the cheapest stuff in there too, because it don't take me much. You know, sometimes it's a required situation in order to, well, loosen some lips, so to speak. It's important to sit down with the people in the community, even the homeless people in the community. Take part in what they do. Take an active role in your community and listen to the people in it. Matt listens to me pretty good. Miss Cass listens extremely well, but I try not to give her any of the issues that I go through because she is a female. That's not saying she couldn't handle it. That's saying that the perspective is so incredibly different that it's really just a mean thing to do. Because of social bias. Not all cops are bad, right? Well, most of the people I would have considered good cops were not cops for very long. Some of them, like Officer Dwight Pruss, he just got tired of seeing bodies all the time. So he moved to Chapel, Nebraska and got a job there with the Dual County Sheriff's Department. Deputy Dwight Pruss of Chapel, Nebraska also did his best to try to rescue 5 children and 3 adults from a burning RV. Laura Nelson being one of them. 5 children died in that fire. Now, we've said a bunch of sad stuff here, haven't we? We've spoken about a lot of stuff that doesn't have anything to do with THC. It's just a business, right? No, it's not. It's not just a business. You don't call them and end up with a machine on the other end that's telling you to call a different machine. You know how that works. Please press 1 for English. and you get multiple options on a machine, multiple options, but you never get to talk to a person. In THC, they don't just remember my name, they remember what my issues are. They remember why I came into their dispensary to begin with. Because I don't want to do drugs. I don't want to come out here and have to do something that could possibly be laced just in order to get in good with a crowd. Meanwhile, the only crowd that's going to be accepting of me is the homeless community, as far as that goes. The people at THC don't push me to sell their products. They don't try to encourage me to tell everybody about their business. The way they treat us, they already know we're gonna. They already know that the way they treat their customers, their customers are going to speak up about how good they are, about how nice they are, but also about how very real they are. When you got an issue with a homeless person because they're doing something that might be embarrassing to you, or you feel it might affect your business, you can approach it as a professional. You can approach that person as if they are a human being. You can approach that person as if they're a person who's actually having an issue or a problem right now. You could treat them like, well, instead of treating them the way the Fred Meyers wanted to treat me and multiple other businesses in this town, as if when somebody does something wrong to me, it means that I'm trying to destroy their business. And that's simply not the case. When people will treat you like a human being and you spend $5 there a month and they still treat you like a person. I spent hundreds of dollars a month at Fred Meyers and never, ever was treated as well there as I get treated at the THC. Meanwhile, I'm not going to pretend that every person who works at Fred Meyers was some horrible person to me. Caleb was good to me. And if the cops had talked to him like they should have, well, things would have turned out differently. If they would have talked to the Scudders like they should have, things would have turned out differently. I can tell you which officers in specific were involved and at what parts. From Timothy Sadler to Trent Olson to Officer Loftman and Officer Lotham. When I go somewhere and tell people about my issues, I get talked over like it's no big thing, or like people know everything. When I go to THC, the two things that I look forward to the most is one of the people working there, we got an ongoing joke about how he's not really there, it's his annoying brother. And when I go in there and he gives me that attention, that's the attention that I need at that point in time. It's not about the pot. It's about how I am spoken to, how I am actually treated like a person there. I don't expect them to go above and beyond for me, but they do anyway. Instead of treating me like I'm a bad dog who's defective and should be dragged out back and shot or beaten. A lot of people seem to think they can beat autism out of me. That's never worked in the history of my life. And again, like I said many times in this video, I'm glad that they exist. There's a lot of stuff they're not going to do for me. They're not going to do with me. Like many of you, they have their own families and their own problems. But you know what? They've dug in more than once to make sure that I was at least safe while I was there. They've dug in more than once to tell me, hey, you know what? If this situation becomes untenable, let us know. Much like over at Denny's, when there was an issue with a woman there. That woman was the apparently the general manager here. She was fired because she was treating other customers the same way she was treating me. Now, the solution that the guy there had, his name is Mike McKinster. His solution to the issue was that I was to drive out of the parking lot. They'd let me know what days that lady worked, and I would park somewhere else and go back over there when that lady was gone. Mike McKinster didn't understand the issues with that, especially the extreme cost. When you have to live on $822 in an area where the average rent is $3,200 a month, you're not going to get into a place. Especially when you were thrown off at 18 years old, and no matter what, the things that happened when you're 18 are used against you for the rest of your life. The fact that I didn't have a rental history, that I didn't have a cosigner, that I didn't have a vehicle, didn't have a driver's license, didn't even have an ID at the age of 18. Y'all don't stop to consider what that does to a person, or how throwing an at-risk adult who is prone to being taken advantage of, you throw him out on the streets with absolutely nothing and tell him that it's his fault. It's his fault, because once you turn 18, you're an adult, and everything after that is your fault. No, 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 no. You take a look at the start that you had. I graduated high school alone. I didn't even find out I'd graduated high school until 7 years after I graduated. A lot of people have these ideas about my situation based on ignorance, based on what they heard. You'd be surprised how many people see me out there flying a sign. I want to talk about how all homeless people out there flying a sign live in a mansion. You saw them getting out of a BMW drop top or a Corvette convertible. It's always a drop top or a convertible, isn't it? It's always a sports car too, isn't it? Or some high-end thing. Well, them folks over at THC have seen my car. They've seen how unsightly it is, how ugly it is, how beaten it is. And they don't treat me like I'm less of a person for it. Now let's go to the review that only got 1 star. Holy Christ, that hurt my chest. Somebody went into their store, wanted them to break the law, and when they refused to break the law, they got a 1-star review. THC, or Today's Herbal Choice, I want to thank you for not jeopardizing us by breaking the law. I want to thank you for not jeopardizing the safety of the community by breaking the law. I want to thank you for guaranteeing, beyond any shadow of a doubt, 100% of the time, if I walk into your store and I buy one of your products, I know 100% beyond any shadow of a doubt that I'm not going to be getting fentanyl in it. I'm not going to be getting methamphetamines in it. There's not going to be any sort of angel dust or any other sort of nastiness sprinkled on my marijuanas. I know that for a fact. I also know the service that they provide here is much appreciated by everyone. And sure, not literally everybody in this town is pro-marijuanas, but you know what? The way those people at THC treat all of their customers, they don't put us at risk. They don't put us at unnecessary risk. They don't put our lives at risk. They don't put our families at risk. And when somebody breaks the law, they put it in check. No, you're not going to do that here. You're not going to risk the business. You're not going to risk the employees. You're not going to risk the other customers by coming in and doing something illegal. When I go in there, I make sure that I show my ID not just to the staff, but also to all of the cameras in there. I'm proud to walk into that establishment. Proud. Because it's never been about the pot for me. It's been about the customer service and the humanity from those people. Something that was lacking from many of the people at Fred Meyer's. A lot of the folks at Denny's were very upfront with me and were very nice to me. But there's a difference between nice and good. What the people at the THC have done is good. What people did at Denny's is nice. Do you see the difference? By the way, I like all the people that I spoke with over there at the Denny's. I got along with them all, with the exception of the Karen who doesn't like hobos. At the Denny's, I had a mental breakdown over the way I was being treated, and I was harmed for it. I had a similar mental breakdown over by THC, not actually in the store. One of the employees noticed I was having a rough day. He came out and talked to me on his break. He didn't take up his work time to do it. He made personal time to come speak with me. And he's not the only employee there who's done that. It's something that's lacking in all American businesses today, is actual customer service. If you go into THC and you want to be hateful that they won't break the law for you, keep in mind, these people are aware that many of the folks who are coming in for their medication, that they have PTSD. It's stress disorder. Many of them are easy to shut down by talking over. Now, do the folks at THC ever say those dismissive things that pretty much everybody says? Well, of course, they're going to. A lot of times we're taught social niceties. We're taught what we're supposed to say in a particular situation. But you know, sometimes silence is golden. Sometimes listening to that person's experience is more important than your opinions. And every single person who has worked there, every single person that I have encountered at THC, if they make one of those offhanded comments, if I explain to them what it is really like, every person there stops, thinks about it for a moment, and tries to put themselves in my shoes. That's something. They also let me tell my usual banter because I'm funny. And some of them even tell me some good jokes. I was planning on making this about 5 minutes long because people aren't likely to watch the whole thing. But again, I want to express how thankful I am for the people that work there. Even though they're not doing the things that I need, The fact is that if I have a bad day, I have the option of calling THC and telling them, hey, I need a therapist for a few minutes who's not a scammer. I need somebody to listen like a friend. And given their time constraints, they do make time. But also, given their time constraints, I have to find somebody who has more time. These people do have families. They do have lives. And we should be thankful that they take the time out of their lives to work for a place called THC and to actually help out people in the community. The people at THC understand that most months I'm not going to smoke the pot that I get there. Most of the time it's going to be thrown away, but it's the fact that I have it that allows me to show somebody who might want me to smoke off their peace pipe. It's important out here, especially on the streets. If you won't smoke off the peace pipe, you're up to no good in many of these people's minds. If I can show people that I have pot, on many occasions that is good enough. It's good enough that I have some. So a lot of their paranoia goes away immediately once they realize I have marijuanas. Also, because I have pot, when they offer me meth, if I tell them, nah, dude, I don't mess with that shit, I'm just a pothead, they're less likely to try to pressure me to smoke meth. They're more likely to understand that, yeah, I'm not squeaky clean. I'm not just telling you that I'm allergic to something because I'm a square. No, if I'm allergic to it, I'm actually allergic to it. If I have adverse reactions to medications, I have adverse reactions to them. It's probably a good idea to listen. And a lot of people out here on the streets, they're so paranoid of getting in trouble that they don't listen too good. To the one person who made a 1-star review about THC, I'm not going to apologize about those folks refusing to break the law for you. I'm not going to feel bad for you when the people who have been good to all of us here in this town, over there at THC, just because they didn't break the law for you, doesn't mean that people don't depend on them, that people aren't grateful for them. I had Christians when I was growing up tell me that, church is for filling up your cup. It's tough to give as much as you give, and it's tough to keep up your spirituality when your cup is always running on empty. When I go in there to THC, after all the inhumanity that I've endured, when I go into THC, I still get a little bit of humanity. You know how we end these videos. Good to be rid of you. Thank you for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and your sister's too. And no victim left behind, even if it's socially acceptable to throw them away like trash.